All right, so we're diving into J. Robert Oppenheimer,
Yes.
and it's interesting because I think everyone knows him as the father of the atomic bomb,
Right.
but these sources you've given me are really fascinating.
Yeah.
They seem to paint a much more personal picture
Yeah.
and a more multifaceted view of who he was. I mean,
Right.
we've got letters that Oppenheimer himself wrote.
Uh,
We have some FBI files, which are always kind of intriguing.
Always.
And we even have recollections from people that were close to him. So,
Exactly. It's a really,
it seems like we're going to get a
it's
much...
an amazing mix of sources.
Yeah.
And I think having these different perspectives helps us to understand Oppenheimer as a person,
Uh-huh.
not just as like a historical figure.
Right.
It allows us to explore like the man behind the momentous
Oh, yeah.
decisions.
Yeah. And so let's start with young Robert. I mean, even just the glimpses into his early life are so revealing.
Yeah.
He was apparently quite introspective as a young person.
Mhm.
He even dabbled in painting before ultimately choosing science.
Right.
I wonder if that, like, shift from art to science hints at something deeper.
It's possible. Maybe it was some kind of a conflict between emotional expression, which art often embodies,
Uh-huh.
and a desire for more objective and rational pursuits like science.
Mm-hmm.
We also see in his early life, there's this complex dynamic with his parents.
Mm-hmm.
His mother, Ella, created this very refined,
Yeah.
almost sheltered environment for him, whereas his father, Julius, was more gregarious,
Okay.
much more connected to like the practical world.
He seems to have been navigating two very different worlds.
Yeah.
Do you think that shaped him in any kind of lasting way?
Oh, absolutely. Feeling caught between those two worlds might have instilled in him a
Mm-hmm.
lifelong like need for approval,
Mm-hmm.
a drive to excel intellectually,
Okay.
almost to bridge that gap.
Interesting.
And then we also have, he attended the Ethical Culture Society, which his father insisted that he go to. And their motto is deed, not creed.
Mm-hmm.
It emphasizes actions over beliefs,
Interesting.
which, that could have maybe influenced his later activism.
Okay. It's interesting to think about how all of those early experiences might have laid the groundwork for
Yeah,
his future choices.
absolutely.
Now,
If
on
he was,
onto Oppenheimer's intellectual journey.
yeah.
He clearly excelled at Harvard.
Yes.
But then there's this amusing anecdote about him struggling with a soldering iron in the lab.
Oh, yeah.
It just seems like the classic brilliant theorist
Yeah.
fumbling with practical tasks.
Right. And it's a good reminder that even the most brilliant minds
Uh-huh.
have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
But remember, Oppenheimer really gravitated toward theoretical physics.
Right.
And that's a realm where abstract concepts and mathematical models,
Yeah.
they reign supreme.
He truly thrived in that realm.
He did.
At Göttingen, there's even that story that he corrected his professor
Oh, I love that story.
on the age of a temple.
It's based on
Just didn't
architectural
Yeah,
details.
just during some casual conversation.
Like, that speaks volumes about his
Yeah.
wide-ranging knowledge
It does.
and sharp observation skills.
And it's important to remember that Göttingen in the 1920s
Yes.
was like the place
Yes, the epicenter of theoretical physics.
for theoretical physics.
It was drawing, all the brightest minds of the era.
Yeah.
So to not only survive, but excel in that environment.
Yeah.
And publishing all this groundbreaking work at such a young age,
Yeah.
it really speaks to his exceptional talent.
It seems like he was in the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
surrounded by other brilliant minds,
Absolutely.
really pushing the boundaries of physics.
Yeah.
But then we see this other side to Oppenheimer,
Yes.
the one who escapes to his New Mexico ranch.
Right.
It's like a world away from Göttingen.
Totally.
He's riding horses.
Hmm.
He's cooking spicy Indonesian food.
Yeah.
He's enjoying whiskey with friends. There's even mention of this wild stallion crisis
Oh, yeah.
that only he could handle.
That's amazing.
What do you make of this contrast?
It does seem to clash with the image of the fragile, introverted genius, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like this rugged, outdoorsy side really suggests that there's this yearning for simplicity and connection with nature, which is a stark contrast to this high-pressure work in physics.
Right.
And I wonder if this duality, this internal push and pull, if that played a role in his later struggles?
That's a good question. And it gets even more intriguing because beneath this,
Yeah.
vibrant exterior that we see at the ranch,
Right.
there are these hints of deeper turmoil. The sources mention incidents that suggest emotional vulnerability,
Right.
the confrontation with Francis Ferguson, his complicated feelings for Inez,
Yeah.
and of course his turbulent relationship with Jean Tatlock.
Yeah, these events point to a complex inner life, like struggling with these intense emotions that may have simmered beneath the surface. I mean, it's especially the incident with Ferguson,
Yeah.
where he reportedly lashed out physically. It's really jarring.
It is. It's hard to reconcile that
Yeah.
with the charismatic leader he'd become.
Yeah.
And it's around this time that that the political landscape really starts to play a significant role in his life.
Yeah.
He becomes increasingly involved with left-wing causes in the 1930s.
Yeah, and I think this period was really a turning point for many intellectuals. The Great Depression, the rise of fascism in Europe. These events sparked widespread social activism.
Right.
And Oppenheimer was definitely drawn into that current.
Yeah.
I mean, he's attending meetings, he's supporting the teachers union, he's even aiding Spanish loyalists.
And of course, this activism attracted the attention of the FBI.
Of course.
Especially given that he had ties to individuals with Communist Party affiliations. So how deeply involved was he with the party itself?
Right.
Sources seem to paint a bit of a murky picture.
Yeah, it's one of the most enduring questions surrounding Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
We have Haakon Chevalier's accounts, which shifted over time.
Okay.
And then the observations of this FBI informant named May. But nothing conclusive.
Yeah.
So was he a true believer? Was he a pragmatist?
Right.
Just using the party to support causes he cared about?
Right.
Or was he simply swept up in, the idealistic fervor of the times?
Yeah.
We don't really
It's
know.
a question that would follow him for years to come.
Yeah.
And it's about to become even more significant
Absolutely.
as Oppenheimer's life intersects with the most consequential scientific project in history.
Yes.
And that, of course, is the Manhattan Project.
Right. It's really incredible to think about Oppenheimer leading this Manhattan Project
Yeah.
with all this personal and political stuff going on. It really adds another dimension to that whole father of the atomic bomb thing.
It does make you wonder how all these factors might have influenced his decisions and leadership
Yeah,
during that time.
absolutely.
And speaking of the Manhattan Project, it's interesting to see how Oppenheimer navigated the complexities of that top secret world. It wasn't all just equations and lab work.
Oh, not at all. The excerpts that you shared
Yeah.
reveal these fascinating glimpses into life at Los Alamos.
Okay.
The social gatherings, the camaraderie,
Right.
even the moments of levity
Uh-huh.
amidst this incredibly intense and high-stakes project.
Like those evenings at Dorothy McKibben's house
Oh, yeah.
in Santa Fe,
In Santa Fe.
where Oppenheimer and other scientists would gather for steak, asparagus, and expertly mixed martinis.
Right. It's almost surreal to imagine these brilliant minds
Yeah.
taking a break from building the atomic bomb
Right.
to enjoy a cocktail.
It's pretty amazing.
Those gatherings really highlight the human side of this monumental endeavor. It wasn't just about the science. It was about managing all these different personalities,
Right.
building a sense of community,
Yeah.
and just finding ways to cope
Right.
with the immense pressure and secrecy of it all.
I'm particularly struck by the dinners Oppenheimer organized at Edith Warner's house,
Oh, yes.
where he brought together scientists
Mm-hmm.
for these intimate conversations that almost felt like
Yeah,
a salon for the nuclear age.
I know. It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
What were they discussing during those evenings?
Right. Sharing scientific breakthroughs,
Right.
debating the moral implications of their work,
Right.
or simply seeking a moment of normalcy amidst extraordinary circumstances.
It's fascinating to speculate.
It is.
And speaking of fascinating, let's not forget the impact of Niels Bohr's visit to Los Alamos.
Oh, right.
Remember, he arrived with this news that the Germans were also working on an atomic bomb.
Right.
And that revelation must have had a profound effect. Yeah.
On Oppenheimer and his team.
Because until that point,
Yeah.
it was kind of like they were in a race against time.
Exactly.
But then the confirmation of a German program,
Right.
it added another layer of...
Urgency and anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bohr's arrival was more than just a scientific update, though.
Okay.
He brought with him this, deep concern for the future.
Mm-hmm.
He advocated for openness in science and international cooperation to try to prevent this, devastating nuclear arms race.
And it seems like Oppenheimer was already kind of grappling with the moral weight of the project. And so Bohr's message likely amplified those concerns.
Yeah.
Remember, Oppenheimer even suggested to Colonel Pash that they should share information with the Soviets.
Oh, wow.
To prevent them from feeling threatened by the bomb's existence.
That's such a crucial detail.
Yeah.
Because it highlights this internal conflict that Oppenheimer's wrestling with.
He's leading this top-secret project that's critical to the war effort. But at the same time, he's keenly aware of the potential for global catastrophe. If this newfound power isn't handled with extreme caution and commitment to international collaboration.
It wasn't just like philosophical hand-wringing.
No.
Oppenheimer also actively sought practical solutions.
Yes, exactly.
Remember, he saw the challenges in producing enough fissile material for the bombs. And he championed exploring the liquid thermal diffusion method. Even though it had been initially dismissed, he thought it could significantly accelerate production.
I mean, it shows his willingness to think outside the box.
And to challenge the status quo.
Absolutely.
It speaks to his pragmatism and his leadership.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to challenge conventional wisdom. If he thought it would benefit the project.
But then when it came to the scientific panel's recommendations on actually using the bomb, he ultimately sided with those advocating for its military use, arguing that it could save American lives.
A decision that, continues to be debated.
It does.
To this day.
Yeah.
It must have been an agonizing
It must have been.
choice to make, weighing the potential for ending the war against the horrifying consequences of unleashing this power.
The moral dilemmas surrounding the bomb were just immense.
Yes.
And Oppenheimer was right at the center of it.
At the very center of that storm.
And then, of course, came the Trinity test.
Yes.
The culmination of years of relentless work.
Right.
And the moment when this theoretical weapon became terrifyingly real. I'm struck by the simplicity of Oppenheimer's brother Frank's reaction.
I know, me too.
Just 2 words. It worked.
Yeah, it's almost understated, isn't it?
Yeah.
But those 2 words really speak volumes about the enormity of the achievement.
It does.
And the weight of that moment.
Right. And yet, even amidst this triumph,
we see Oppenheimer wrestling with the implications.
Yes.
Isidore Rabi described Oppenheimer's walk afterward as a high noon strut.
Like
he was...
Yeah, a man who had carried an unimaginable burden and emerged victorious.
But it was a bittersweet victory because when he talked to the New York Times reporter, he described the blast as terrifying and not entirely undepressing.
His words reveal the weight he carried, the understanding that this scientific triumph came at a terrible cost. He couldn't just celebrate. He was already grappling with the consequences.
Even in his correspondence with Ernest Lawrence about returning to Berkeley, Oppenheimer expressed a sense of unease. He referred to himself as an underdogger.
It's a curious term.
It is.
Underdogger.
Yeah.
It suggests this deep empathy, a commitment to social justice that wasn't erased
by his newfound fame and success.
But this commitment would eventually make him a target.
Unfortunately, yes.
In the increasingly paranoid climate of the Cold War.
Yes.
You're right. Even as the nation celebrated the victory made possible by the bomb, Oppenheimer was wrestling with this growing sense of disillusionment.
Yeah, Rabi even noted that Oppenheimer was depressed and not himself after the bombing of Hiroshima.
It's a poignant reminder that those closest to the creation of the bomb understood its potential for horror.
They had glimpsed the abyss.
Yeah.
And that knowledge couldn't be easily shaken off.
And rather than passively accepting the course of events, Oppenheimer actively sought to kind of shape policy. He became a key advisor to the government on atomic energy matters.
Yes.
He was pushing for international control, advocating for transparency, and even questioning the wisdom of developing a hydrogen bomb.
His advocacy really reveals a remarkable moral courage. He was willing to challenge the prevailing narrative, to question the very weapon that he had helped to create. But his views, unfortunately, clashed with the growing fear and paranoia of the Cold War.
And he found himself at odds with powerful figures like Louis Strauss, who championed American military superiority and viewed the Soviet Union with deep distrust.
The clashes between Oppenheimer and Strauss really foreshadowed the storm that was brewing. And unfortunately for Oppenheimer, the FBI's continued surveillance, fueled by his past left-wing associations and the accusations of individuals like Paul Crouch and Louis Boudin's, it created this growing cloud of suspicion around him.
These accusations, often based on flimsy evidence or outright fabrications, they highlight the dangers of McCarthyism and the chilling effect of the Red Scare.
Absolutely. Truth became secondary to political expediency. And Oppenheimer, with his complex past and his outspoken views, became an easy target. And as we move into the next part of our deep dive, we'll see how these forces really coalesce into a perfect storm. Leading to one of those shameful episodes in American history.
Yeah, it's almost hard to believe that a man who contributed so much to his country, who was so instrumental in ending World War II, could become the target of such a vicious campaign.
It's a stark reminder of how quickly the tides can turn. Especially in times of political upheaval and fear.
And
for Oppenheimer,
1953
proved to be a pivotal moment. You know, with Eisenhower's election and the appointment of Louis Strauss as chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, the stage was set for this dramatic confrontation.
It seems almost Shakespearean, this clash of titans.
It does.
With Strauss harboring resentment from their previous disagreements, now wielding the power to just dismantle Oppenheimer's career.
And it was a calculated move by Strauss. He met with Eisenhower and expressed concerns about Oppenheimer's loyalty and influence, and effectively made it impossible for him to lead the AEC with Oppenheimer still involved. And he didn't stop there. Strauss used his connections to plant these negative stories about Oppenheimer in the media. Painting him as this reckless radical with security risk.
It's a chilling example of how public opinion can be manipulated.
Especially when anxieties are running high.
And then in December of 1953, Oppenheimer received the devastating news that his security clearance was being suspended, pending review.
The charges brought against him were just this hodgepodge of old accusations about his past communist associations and newer concerns about his judgment, particularly his opposition to the hydrogen bomb. It was all a carefully orchestrated trap designed to publicly humiliate him and discredit him.
The security hearing that followed must have been agonizing for Oppenheimer.
It must have been.
I mean, he was grilled about his past. His every word was scrutinized. His motives were twisted to fit this narrative of disloyalty.
It was a travesty of justice. A prime example of the excesses of McCarthyism. Evidence and truth were secondary to innuendo and character assassination. Oppenheimer, you know, despite all his brilliance in his contributions, was being portrayed as this dangerous subversive.
And his defense, led by the relatively inexperienced Lloyd Garrison, was simply no match for the relentless prosecution. It's almost heartbreaking to read about Oppenheimer's own missteps during the hearing, his admissions to fabrications. That just played right into the hands of his accusers.
It really highlights the importance of strong legal counsel in a situation like that. But even with, you know, the most skilled lawyer, it's doubtful he could have escaped unscathed. The political climate was just so toxic.
So the verdict was a foregone conclusion.
It was.
The board, by a narrow margin, declared Oppenheimer a loyal citizen, but still a security risk, recommending that his clearance not be reinstated.
And it's worth noting that one board member, Henry DeWolf Smith, dissented. He recognized the injustice of it all. I mean, Smith saw through the charade. He argued that Oppenheimer was being punished for his political views, not for any, you know, tangible threat to national security. But his was a lone voice. The AEC, under Strauss's influence, upheld the board's decision. Oppenheimer's world came crashing down.
Yeah.
I mean, his access to classified information was revoked. His reputation was in tatters.
It's a dark chapter in American history.
It is.
A man who had dedicated his life to science and his country was just cast aside.
As a result of political maneuvering and Cold War paranoia.
What really struck me was that even after this public humiliation, Oppenheimer still had the support of so many friends and colleagues.
It's true. The outpouring of support really speaks to the respect and admiration.
It does.
He's still commanded within the scientific community.
But the damage was done.
It was.
He retreated from public life, focused on his work at the Institute for Advanced Study, and finding solace at his beloved New Mexico ranch.
But even in this forced exile, his intellectual curiosity didn't wane.
He continued to write and lecture, grappling with the ethical dilemmas of the nuclear age, and advocating for arms control and international cooperation.
His later writings are so insightful. You know, there's that famous quote where he reflects on the burden of knowledge. He says, "In some sort of crude sense, which no vulgarity, no humor, no overstatement can quite extinguish, the physicists have known sin, and this is a knowledge which they cannot lose."
It's a haunting statement. It speaks to the profound responsibility that comes with scientific progress.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to technologies with the potential for such immense destruction.
Yeah, it's a message that resonates even more strongly today.
Right.
As we grapple with, you know, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, all these other advancements that could reshape our world.
So looking back at Oppenheimer's life, it's clear that he was a man of extraordinary brilliance and complexity.
Absolutely.
He made significant contributions to science, helped end a world war, but he also struggled with inner turmoil and became a victim of political machinations.
His story is a reminder that even the most brilliant minds aren't immune to the forces of history. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the fragility of truth, and the importance of safeguarding intellectual freedom.
It's also a very human story.
Yes.
Filled with moments of triumph and tragedy, love and loss, that really make us question the very nature of responsibility and the consequences of our actions.
Absolutely.
We've learned so much about Oppenheimer from this deep dive. We've moved beyond that simplistic label of father of the atomic bomb to discover this man grappling with complex moral dilemmas and ultimately facing this tragic downfall.
Yeah, his life offers a really powerful lesson for all of us. To think critically, to challenge assumptions, to speak truth to power, and to remain vigilant in the face of injustice.
Oppenheimer's legacy is a complicated one.
It is.
But it's one that continues to provoke these important conversations about the role of science in society, the ethical implications of technological advancements, and the importance of safeguarding individual liberties in the face of political pressure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Okay.
It's been a fascinating and thought-provoking exploration of a truly remarkable and ultimately tragic figure.